Welcome to Design Diary, the podcast where you get to look inside my board game design notebook as well as what's going on inside my head. We look at a new word each day from the sense of mechanics, tone, theme, or inspiration for a full game. Today's word is placate. The definition is to soothe or mollify, especially by concessions, to appease. So it's to soothe or to make less angry, essentially. And I feel like in a game, you are doing this by words or actions. And I guess that's kind of everywhere. You're doing this by words or actions. To make people less angry. You're helping them out or giving them a pat on the back. So my notebook says, here is my immediate thought. I actually wrote that sentence out. Here's my immediate thought. And sometimes it's just like that. Sometimes I'll write down 50 different ways, like synonyms for placate, and just exactly how they, what that means. I could write, what is less angry? Like, what actually is less angry? Is it happier, or is it, sometimes I go through that, but sometimes I just go, here is my immediate thought. A resource management game with loads of resources and conversions. I'm thinking 8 different cube colors, then 3 to 4 different token colors, and 3 to 4 different meeple colors, just to give you an idea of how many components are in play. So, big, huge, lots of components, and super dry by the sounds of it. Resource management. And I wrote, everything works as standard, whatever that means, except for one part where players will take turns saying, the bad news is that everyone has to lose blank. But the good news is that everyone gains blank. And I had examples there. Everyone has to lose, and I wrote example 1 red meeple, but they gain Y, or they lose X, which is example 1 red meeple, but they gain Y, which is example 1 blue cube. And I said the rule will state that you need to include something that you own in the lose X section. So I can say everyone has to lose a red meeple if I have a red meeple to lose. And then the second rule was you must give up something of a greater value for something lesser. So you always have to step down. And I didn't write this, but I was thinking as I wrote it was maybe you could step the same. So you could lose, say meeples are worth the same as each other. You give up a red meeple to gain a blue meeple or whatever. I think that's fine. But I don't know because this isn't a game. It's just a page and a half and I'm already a page into it. So you have to include something that you have, and you have to, you can't go up. You have to go down in value. And then I wrote, obviously, I love when I write these things like, obviously, on your turn, you are going to want to convert some of them to have something different than your opponent. You're going to want to convert something so you can have something different than your opponent. And maybe that's how you score on the differences. So this came about because, as I was thinking, was if I say everybody loses red and gains blue, and we all start out at the same gaming state, we're all going to end at the same game state. If everybody's constantly doing the exact same thing, nothing changes. And if you're scoring on the differences, well, there almost aren't any. So I'd want to see this just being part of your turn in the game. So it's not the entire thing. And a lot of times when I go through this single page of notes that I have, And when it feels like more of a game, it's definitely part of something bigger. It's usually very one note by nature because I'm just working off of a single sentence or a word or whatever. That there would have to be a ton of stuff to fill in around this to make it an actual complete thing. But I imagine that you get, before I make this statement, before or after, it would vary differently. But before I make this statement, I'm going to do all my actions on my turn. And at the end of the turn, I'm going to say, well, the bad news is everyone has to lose, the red meeple. The good news is everyone gets the blue cube. So ending my turn, I may have been able to work up to that red meeple that I ditch to get the blue cube. But hopefully in that, I'm messing with my opponents in some sort of way. And I don't know how, because I made that rule where you have to lose in order to gain. But everybody gains whether or not they lose. So it might even, I don't know. I don't know how this benefits you, and that would take, the work and the iteration and messing around with it. But I kind of thought of it as the, here's the bad news, but then here's the good news. And then I said I also want to see cards played once and then out of the game. It seems interesting and maybe fitting. It also seems like it has nothing to do with this. But I thought of it in a way that you're just, it limits your actions. And this was sort of to help with doing the same thing every turn and everybody working off the same beginning and eventually ending at the same place, was that if I were to play a card, and nothing even says that there's cards here at all yet, but let's say I do it via a card. Everyone has to lose a purple meeple. Once I play that purple meeple card, purple meeple is out of the running for this lose gain. And then everybody gains a blue cube. Blue cube is now out of the running for this portion of the game. And from there, we're starting to get a little bigger, and it's starting to grow and get a little more complex. Those cards are out of this portion, but maybe they shift and end up in another side. You get to determine what to do with them, or they can build something along those lines. But that's it. I finished, a third of the way into the second page and stopped right there. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes you keep going, or get pulled aside. But the whole point of this is just to get something on paper every single day. And for Placate, I have the bad news is this, but the good news is that. Hopefully it makes players less angry. That's the whole portion of the good. That's the whole good news side. It is supposed to make them a little bit less angry. So that's it. That's all I have for Placate. Page and a half, or a third, page and a third. So if you have anything, share it. And I'll talk to you next time.